Hi, Lee Thurburn here, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of Live Stream Lee, where our goal is to help you grow your business faster so that you can have more time for your family, retire earlier, and work less. Hopefully we're going to be able to give you some good information today. Today we're going to be talking about the all-important business plan. Now, business plans are valuable to both the startup of business and an entrepreneur that's been in business for a while. I think it's important to review your business plan. In other words, come back to it and refine it and look forward into the future on an annual basis. And importantly, it's to use your business plan on an ongoing basis as one of your primary measurement tools to see whether or not you're actually on target to achieving the kind of return on investment that you looked for, hoped, and expected when you started your business. Now, there's an old saying that I subscribe to that says management is measurement, which basically means that if you're going to manage a business, you need to measure. You can't improve anything, your business or any individual micro process within your business, if you don't measure it. How will you know that the changes you're implementing are having the beneficial effect that you're hoping for if you don't have a way of measuring it? So therefore, management is measurement. And good entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, manage their businesses. It all starts with a business plan. So today we're going to jump into the business plan and talk about it. But before we do, I want to put a plug in for you to visit Apricot Rocket's, for you to visit livestreamlee.com. My primary company and primary day job, if you will, is to run a company called Apricot Rocket. The live stream Lee that I do is a way to help people basically become more mission and goal. My purpose in life is to help small businesses grow faster. The primary vehicle that I have to do that is the software package that I built called Apricot Rocket. When you go to livestreamlee.com and you click on the Join My Community link, you're going to be creating an account with Apricot Rocket. That's how the community is managed. If you've ever wondered or thought maybe that having a private members only area where you could provide intellectual property like webinars and documents and videos and things like that to just your members, that's one of the things Apricot Rocket does. But more importantly, we are devoted to helping small businesses grow faster by getting more customers. And so when you join the livestreamlee.com community and you create an account, you'll have the opportunity to tell us about the services that your company offers. Please be sure and do that. We can't help steer people to you if we don't know who you are and what kind of services you offer. So be sure and join Livestream Lee for that purpose. Now, I also want to mention that, as entrepreneurs, we have a tendency to get caught up in the daily, hustle and bustle of trying to make a buck and satisfy clients. And, we can often forget to do something very important, but also very simple. And that is to build a network of people around us that we trust who can give us good ideas and good feedback. A lot of entrepreneurs get isolated in the busyness of keeping up with and trying to maintain and grow their business. It's up to you to make sure you surround yourself with good quality advisors. I have an attorney that I use whenever I have a new idea or somebody approaches me with an idea. I like to call Scott Reeb. Scott is a business attorney and an entrepreneur, so he knows what the journey's like. He gives great advice. I value his opinion, call him often. And if you don't have a great attorney relationship in place, I'm going to recommend you give Scott Reeb a call. Go to livestreamlee.com. Look on the right-hand side. You're going to see a bunch of buttons. One of them is going to say Scott Reeb. Click there and get to know more about Scott. Reach out and give him a call. Get on his calendar. You'll be glad you did. Now, when you are thinking about starting a business, now, for those of you that already have a business, you've already taken this step. But when you're thinking about starting a business, there's a number of important sequential steps that you should go through. One of those is creating a business plan. Now, it is sort of the last step in the process before you go out and start raising money. By the time you get to creating a business plan, you should have already gone through the process of coming up with an idea, evaluating, doing some analysis, critical thinking to determine whether that idea is a good idea. You should have done some test marketing. You should have created a business model, tested the market. You should have done a number of things. The business plan is a time-consuming and detailed exercise where you look at what exactly should you be doing. In many respects, your business plan is your strategic plan for how you're going to grow your business, but it has more than just strategy in it. So the business plan is an important but not first step in launching a business. So I just wanted to kind of put it into perspective of where in the process of creating a business and launching a new business it sits. There are two fundamentally major, powerful reasons for why you should do a business plan. One, it's going to double the probability that you're going to be successful. In other words, in the previous, like Monday of this week, yesterday, on the 28th of March, no, the 29th of March, looking at the day, on Monday, we talked about business failure. Failure is part of the entrepreneurial process. In a lot of respects, you're going to have lots of little failures as you try things and do little pivots, micro pivots, as you launch and grow your business. But one of the things that I've had in the failure article or episode was statistics. And basically it boils down to about 1/3 of businesses will fail in 2 years and a little over 50% will fail in 5 years. If you want to change those dynamics and dramatically lower the probability that you're going to have to deal with failure, doing a business plan is the single most important thing you can do prior to launching your business. With a business plan, you're also about 50% more likely to be able to get funding. It doesn't matter whether you're trying to get bank funding or whether you're trying to get investor funding. If you don't have a business plan, you're a lot less likely to be able to get either bank or investor financing. So having a business plan is a critical step on the road to getting proper funding and financing for your business. Now, what is in a business plan? You know, every business plan is unique. Every business is unique. And so what I'm going to go through today is kind of a high-level overview of what is in a business plan. And over the next 3 episodes, I'm going to do a deeper dive into many of the different sections that I'm going to cover today. So the first thing is to sort of lay out what the sections of a business plan are and what they contain. So the major sections, and this is kind of like a high-level outline, and so this is the highest level outline. Now, a cover page is an important note or an important part of the business plan because this is, in many respects, the first impression people are going to get of you and how you think about your business. Your first impression, of course, is always a critically important impression. And let me take a moment and stop and talk about first impressions other than the business plan. How you talk, how you dress, how you compose yourself, the energy that you bring with you, and most importantly, the positive attitude that you have that represents your enthusiasm and your commitment. These are the first impression things that people are going to get of you. So I'm not saying wear a tux when you go ask for a loan or try to get, investor money, but make sure that you are dressed a little bit above what you would normally expect in that situation. Nobody is ever going to think worse of you because you dressed up a little bit. They may think worse of you if you dress down. So dress appropriately and then take it up just a notch. Make sure that everything is new and, you get the idea. Go to the hair salon and get your hair done like I did. The point is make sure that you're looking like the professional that you want to impress upon them. And it also starts with your cover page. Your cover page should have some important information on it. We'll talk about that in just a moment. There should be an executive summary, and then a section that talks about the company that you're starting, the strategy, another section for the strategy that you're going to be employing, the marketing and the marketing research, how you're going to execute on your marketing, your plan of implementation, and then followed by the single most important part of the business plan, your projections, followed last by the financing and funding choices that you are proposing for your business. So let's take just a little deeper dive into each one of these and talk about them just a bit. So first of all, the cover page. Again, your cover page is your first impression of the actual plan. It doesn't need to be super flashy, but it should be very professionally done. In most cases, you're going to want to have a logo of some sort on your business plan. You're probably not doing a business plan because you don't need money. In other words, if you had enough money for the business plan, there's actually a scaled down version that you should prepare for yourself, but you're not going to need to worry about a cover page if you don't need funding or financing from an external source. But if you do need funding or financing from an external source, you probably want to have invested the little bit of money that it takes on Fiverr.com or any number of other places where you can get some good quality graphics to get a professional looking graphic logo, put your address, put the number of shares if you're asking for equity, put the number of shares that you're looking to sell and the percentage of equity. If you're looking for funding, from like bank funding, put the dollar amount of the funding that you're seeking. In other words, this is a super succinct, right up, get the money out of the question, first page, get it out of the way. People are going to wonder how much money you're looking for. Let them know right away so that they put that question aside and they can focus on the rest of your business plan. Okay, so the cover page covers first impressions, graphics, a little bit of graphics, a nice clean, and then answer the big questions. Who are you? How much money are you asking for? And what are you offering in the way of equity as both shares and percent? So cover the basics. The next thing is going to be an executive summary. Your executive summary should be between 1 and 2 pages. This is literally the elevator pitch, quick rendition. When somebody says, tell me about your deal, they do not want you to tell them the whole business plan. They just want you to tell them the highlights, the important things. What are the important things? Okay, remember, investors and bankers always want to know how much they're going to get out of it, and especially investors. Most of the time, a business plan for a banker is a little bit different than a business plan for an investor. Investors are by nature security conscious, but more driven by greed than anything else. And I mean that in the most positive possible way. Investors invest in businesses not because they want a 7 or 8% per year return on their business. That's a banker. Investors invest in your business because they want 5, 10, 20, or 50 times their money back in 2 to 5 years. So you have to speak to the motivating factor behind the investor. And that basically is the following. What kind of problem do you solve? Because all businesses solve problems. How many people have that problem? How big is the market? How important is this problem to them? What's the value they get out of it? How easy is it for you to identify a target-rich environment? What do your competitors look like? And how many of these are you going to be able to sell and make money? I mean, those are basically the things the business plan is going to answer the question of. Okay, so you want to just really cut to the chase and put all of that into 1 or 1.5 pages, no more than 2 pages. You really need to try to get it down to 1 page. The next part of the plan, the business plan, is where you talk about your company. Now, mission and vision, a lot of people think that's not really that important. but you're wrong. It's incredibly important. People identify, investors identify, bankers identify with a powerful vision and mission. Now, your vision kind of comes before the mission. In reality, purpose drives passion, drives vision, drives mission. Mission drives goals and objectives. Okay, so that's the sequence of where all this comes from. Now, you don't have to have have to talk about your purpose in life or the passion that you have, but it doesn't hurt to do so. But in the vision and mission, you need to clearly articulate why you're doing what you're doing and who you're doing it for and what you expect to be when the company grows up. That's really what you're talking about here. And then the company history section is optional. If you're starting a brand new company, of course, you don't have a company history section. If you're going out to the market after having been in business for a while, you definitely want to talk a little bit about the company history, the timeline of critical or key events that have occurred in your company as you've taken it from what was a startup to this point in time, whatever that point in time is. If it's a brand new company, then you can talk about the formation and research activities that you've engaged in. But for the most part, you only do a company history if there is a history for the company. So it may be not pertinent to your company. You want to talk about the products and services you offer, and you want to talk about the problems that people have and how big of a market this is, and so on a little bit. You want to talk a little bit about the industry, profile the industry, and give a history of the industry. Now, there are certainly some occasions where there is no industry because you're creating a brand new segment in the market. You might think of Apple iTunes when there was no iTunes. You might think of Uber when there was nothing before Uber. Airbnb when there was nothing before Airbnb. These are examples of companies that don't really have any kind of history before them, where they basically defined a new industry. Now, you also can talk about your competitors in the industry. Talk about the competitors from the perspective of the industry, not really necessarily from the perspective of how you're going to market against them and compete with them, but lay out the major competitors and give a perspective of the industry. Okay, the next thing that you're going to want to talk about is your strategy. You're going to want to talk about things like your strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats. Do a little SWOT analysis for the business. Do a 5 forces analysis. Do a value chain analysis and a PESTEL analysis. PESTEL is political, economic, social, cultural, technological, environmental, and legal. You touch on each one of those aspects of how your company fits into the grander environment. You consider that sort of an environmental analysis. And then think about the strategic mix and what strategy the mix of strategic alternatives that you're going to employ and why. It basically boils down to there's only really fundamentally 3 strategic alternatives. Some people even say there's just 2. One is cost leadership and the other is differentiation. Now, in the differentiation world, there's differentiation and niche focused differentiation. So there's a couple of different ways. So most people look at there being 3 fundamental strategies. Which of those are you going to employ? Why are you employing that based upon the analysis that you've done in the industry above? So in other words, build a case for why you have a strategy that's a powerful and effective strategy to be able to gain you entry into the market. Okay, so you want to talk about the strategy section, certainly. You also want to talk about marketing, and this is where you start to really want to get detailed. Okay, marketing is one of those sections where if you don't have a need for investors, if you have all the money you need for yourself, you still want to have a detailed marketing section, and you also want to have a detailed competitor section. So competitors, understanding your competitors and understanding the marketing strategy that you're putting in place is something that you should do even if you don't have any investors. Those are critical components. But from a marketing perspective, you want to be very, very crystal clear about the target market that you're going after, about what your customer motivations are. When I say target market and customer motivations, a simple, super simple example comes to my mind. You want to be able to talk about the problem, solution, benefit, and where you're going to find a target-rich environment. Problem, solution, benefit, 3 images in your mind. Camera angle down, lunchroom, high school, single girl sitting at a table. She has acne. She's sad and alone. Next camera shot, same girl, front of a bathroom mirror, applying some acne cream. Third camera shot, same as the first one, angle down, same girl, but now she's surrounded by friends. They're laughing and having fun. You've just told a powerful story. You've told a story of somebody has acne, a young girl has acne, she uses your cream, her problem is solved. You've succinctly identified your target market, your customer motivations. Now you talk about the size and the trends and the message and the media, how you're going to get the message to your audience. You want to talk about the pricing strategy and your distribution strategy, and have you done any test marketing? Do you have any specific results that you can look to? Can you predict what the rollout is going to look like? What are your expectations in terms of cost of acquisition and lifetime value of a customer? You want to talk about these kinds of things here in the marketing section. Marketing is the single most critical component in the business plan because it feeds into the financial projections. And the financial projections can't exist without a thorough understanding of your marketing. So when you get into your financial projections, and by the way, we're going to have a complete session devoted to how to generate financial projections that can be used both from a measuring perspective as well as to be able to update your predictions and fine-tune your predictions of the future. So when you get to the financial projections, the single most important question is, how many sales are you going to make, and what kind of revenue are you going to generate, and what kind of margins are you going to have? Well, you can't answer those questions until you have completely thought through how you're going to market. Do you have a big market? Where do they congregate? What kind of messages do they listen to? What media will get in front of them? How do you find a target-rich environment? It's kind of like when the original Top Gun movie, when the Maverick and the Goose walked into that bar in San Diego. Maverick turns to Goose and says, "Now that's what I like, a target-rich environment." Well, when you're marketing to customers, you want to find exactly the same thing. And you can't do that. And more importantly, the business plan isn't going to convey that you've thought through and have a good solution unless you can talk about those things in detail. Okay, so you're going to talk about your pricing strategy, your distribution strategy. You're going to talk about all of this stuff in fairly good detail. Now, the next section is where you talk about how you're going to implement. Now, you can talk about your location in this section, but if your location is actually an integral part of your marketing, then you might want to put it in your marketing section. If you're a retail business, a location is most likely going to be critical to your marketing. If you're a restaurant, that kind of business, location is critically important to your marketing. But if you're a wholesaler or a distributor or a manufacturer, location is a lot less important, so you might include it in the implementation area. Here you're going to talk about your management team. Your management team is another one of those extremely important pieces of information that investors and lenders are going to look at to determine whether or not you have a trustworthy team and whether or not you as a leader, as the founder, have the ability to pull together a team of people that are likely to be able to carry out the plan that you've put together. And then what is your plan of operations? Now, this doesn't mean a day-by-day rollout of what the next year looks like, but it does mean a fairly detailed timeline of your project implementation sort of schematic. Think of it, your business as a project, and projects have metrics and points in time and due dates for things. So you may want to lay out a timeline for your major accomplishments that you're looking forward to doing, and explain what those timeline dates are and who's responsible for accomplishing them. For your major team members, you might want to have a bit of a detailed of what their job duties will look like, almost like a description job description list. You certainly want to have the bios of the people that you've chosen. So this information goes into the implementation section and the rollout section. Finally, and this isn't the end, but it may be the last slide that I have on this, you're going to have your financial projections. I see that I'm missing a slide, so I can talk about it. You're going to have your financial projections. Now, your financial projections consist of two things: assumptions and cash flow projections. The cash flow projections are actually the spreadsheet. And again, we're going to have a whole episode devoted specifically to the spreadsheet. I'm literally going to show you and walk you through a spreadsheet and the evolution of a spreadsheet so that you can understand how to build one. And then, of course, if you're a member of our community, you'll have access to a sample spreadsheet that you can just simply download and use for your own purposes. But as it regards assumptions, every line item on your spreadsheet should have a corresponding line item in your assumptions. So, for example, if your assumptions or if your spreadsheet has an item for rent, that's a very easy line item in your assumptions. So you might have rent on the expenses spreadsheet on line 14 or 47. Let's just go with line 14. So you're going to have in your assumptions a subheading for expenses, and then you're going to have rent, line 14, and you're going to talk about why rent is shown the way it's shown. You're going to have utilities. You're going to have utilities on line 27. And so you're going to show utilities, line 27. And you're going to talk about why you predict the numbers to change over the next couple of years. Typically, your business plan and your spreadsheet will go out 2 years. There are some businesses where you will go out longer. But generally speaking, for most retail type businesses, to go out beyond 2 years is an exercise in making up numbers. You're simply not going to have the ability to predict beyond a couple of years. In fact, predicting beyond 6 months is a real challenge to have and be accurate, to have accuracy and be accurate. But the important thing I'm wanting you to know here is that your assumptions need to tie directly to your spreadsheet on a line-by-line basis so that people looking at your spreadsheet can understand why the numbers are doing what they're doing. And then finally, and this is where I don't have a slide, finally, you should have a financing section where you explain to people what you're asking for and why. What is the structure of the deal? Typically, if you're looking for a loan, you'll say how much you're wanting to borrow, what the interest rates and the repayment terms are that you want. If you're looking for financing, you'll tell people how much money you want to raise and what percentage of the company you're offering and why you're justifying the cap value that you've put forth or the value of your company, why you think it's worth $50,000 or $5 million or whatever as you're selling off a piece to the investors. So you'll explain that. And that's it. Now, we're going to have in our next section, we're going to take a deeper dive into some of the elements that go into the sections I've just covered. We're going to talk in more specificity about that. And then in a couple of days, we're going to do the spreadsheet and jump deeper into the assumptions. When we talk about financing, there's another aspect of running your business that's important, and that is, what are you going to do when you get to the end game? I mean, what is your end game? You probably, if you're like me, have most of your wealth tied to your business. So when you get ready to retire, what is that transition and transaction going to look like? There's a guy that I'd like to recommend to you. His name is Bob Hampton. Bob is a business planner, a financial business planner. I mean, he basically, he plans for the end game for businesses as well as people. But Bob is both a CPA and a financial advisor. And I actually look to and trust Bob to give me advice about how to plan for that end game. If you don't have somebody that you're working with to help you prepare for that stage of your business's growth, then you might want to go to livestreamlead.com and look on the right-hand side. You're going to see a link for Bob. There he is. I meant to put his picture up. You're going to see a link for Bob Hampton. He has a business called Impart Financial. You can go to impartfinancial.com or just go to livestreamlead.com. Bob's a great guy. He's a smart guy, and he's a good guy to know. So go check out Bob Hampton on livestreamlead.com. All right. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Cheers.